Now we are going to have another recall, which is the kinds of convex quadrilaterals. A quadrilateral is convex if and only if its diagonals intersect. If the diagonals do not intersect, then we have a non-convex or concave quadrilateral. Quadrilaterals are defined according to the parallel sides that they have. Let's take a look with the diagram of a quadrilateral. So under general quadrilateral or convex quadrilateral, we have trapezium, kite, parallelogram, rectangle, square, rhombus, and trapezoids. So these are the 7 kinds of convex quadrilaterals. So these quadrilaterals are named and identified according to the parallel sides that they have. When we say parallel sides, these are the sides which do not intersect. For trapezium, we have 0 pair of parallel sides. Under trapezium is a kite. A kite has 0 pair of parallel sides. What makes a kite distinct from a trapezium is that the kite has 2 pairs of adjacent sides which are congruent. Next is a parallelogram. A parallelogram has 2 pairs of opposite sides which are both parallel and congruent. Under parallelogram, we have special parallelograms, rectangle, square, and rhombus. Rectangle, square, and rhombus has 2 pairs of opposite sides which are parallel and congruent. What makes a rectangle distinct from a parallelogram is that a rectangle has 4 right angles. Rhombus, however, has 4 equal sides, while a square is said to be both a rectangle and a rhombus, aside from being a special parallelogram. Why? Because a square has a characteristic of a rectangle, which is 4 right angles. Likewise, a square is also a rhombus because all the sides of a square are congruent. And lastly is the trapezoid. A trapezoid has only 1 pair of parallel sides, and these parallel sides are called the bases. The non-parallel sides are called the legs. If the legs are congruent, then we have an isosceles trapezoid. So let us define the different kinds of convex quadrilateral. So first, we have a trapezium. A trapezium is a quadrilateral that has no pair of parallel sides. Next is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly a pair of opposite parallel sides called the bases. The non-parallel sides are called the legs. An isosceles trapezoid has congruent legs. Next is a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of opposite sides which are parallel and congruent. Next is a rectangle. A rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 congruent angles. Each angles measure 90 degrees. Next is a rhombus. A rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. Is a square. A square is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides and 4 congruent angles. It is both a rhombus and a rectangle. It is also called a regular polygon because a square is both equilateral and equiangular. And lastly, we have a kite. A kite is a trapezium with 2 distinct pairs of adjacent congruent sides. Take note that congruent means having equal measures. So take note of this symbol. This symbol means congruent. The 2 parts have equal measures. A square, rectangle, and rhombus are special parallelograms. Square, rectangle, and rhombus has 2 pairs of opposite sides which are parallel and congruent. We have the angle sum theorem in a quadrilateral. The sum of the measures of the interior angles of any quadrilateral is 360 degrees. So whether we have a square, rectangle, rhombus, trapezoid, trapezium, or kite, the sum of the measures of their interior angles is equal to 360 degrees. Let us go back to the diagram of a general quadrilateral. Based on the diagram, we can say that all squares are quadrilaterals, all squares are parallelogram, but not all parallelograms are square, because a parallelogram could be a rectangle or a rhombus. Likewise, we can say that all kites are trapezium, but not all trapeziums are kite. In the same manner, not all convex quadrilaterals are trapezoid, because we could have a trapezium or a parallelogram. That ends our lesson for this session. Thank you and God bless. Happy learning!